Pacers lose a tight one to the Rockets the same way everybody loses to the Rockets. They got smoked on the glass. They could not contain Alperen Şengün at all. That was a little related to the Pacers. And some other keynotes. The bench was great, but one player in particular caught my eye for a strange reason tonight. We have a lot to get to on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin. And today, welcome to Locked On Pacers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network. We're talking Pacers Rockets today. Pacers lose a close one, 118-114. They had a fourth quarter lead. The Rockets' style was so challenging for the Pacers, as it was the first time these two teams played. This is how the Rockets play. This is what they do. And part of that is related to their team, and part of it tonight for this game was related to the Pacers roster and an individual matchup that was a very expected struggle and proved to be a massive problem throughout this game via Alperen Şengün. The Pacers bench was quite good. Isaiah Jackson was great. And one player, a.k.a. Johnny Furphy, we have to talk about him later because something in this game happened with him that really caught my eye in a way that it has with him for a while. Tight game, and yet the stat of the game that's going to explain everything that happened is the exact one you'd expect, playing the Houston Rockets, who entered the day with an offensive rebound rate of 40.5%. No other team is above 35.5%. They are far and away the best offensive rebounding team in the league. For reference, the Pacers are 27th at 27.5%. The Rockets are great on the glass. Top rebounding total rate in the league. Lo and behold, the game ends, and the Pacers have 33 rebounds, and the Rockets have 56. Now, granted, the first shot of every possession, the Pacers were more efficient. They shot better from the field and from three, just like they did the first time in Houston. But eventually that style adds and stacks up. And so many of my notes from early in this game were kind of just like small little and breadcrumbs that the Rockets' style and the way they want to play, even without Kevin Durant, was going to be problematic for the Pacers, right? They like to crowd the paint. The second the Pacer ball handler would get below the free throw line, here come the Rockets. They're swarming you. Even if you're not necessarily a threatening rim attacker, they're going to make it hard for the Pacers to score right around the basket. Pacers 48 points in the paint. That's okay. That's not bad. But the Rockets did a pretty good job with that and forcing jumpers to be the name of the game for the Pacers. Pacers first, I believe, 3 made shots were threes. Then they made 2 free throws, and the Rockets were just beating the crap out of them in the paint. It was hard. My third note taken is, when will the Pacers hit a 2? And their first 2 was Ben Mathurin trying to take a 3 and having his toe right on the line, and it was a 2. In the end, their first real 2, like trying to get to the basket, was Aaron Nesmith driving and finishing. It was a nice shot with 4.5 minutes to go in the first quarter. Right. So even the Pacers were keeping up, to their credit, and they did this in Houston too for a lot of the game because they were generating and making good threes. I'm not saying the Rockets had some massive stylistic strangle on the game. It was impossible for the Pacers to play well, but it did at least like force them to play a little out of character, especially the way the possession battle went. And the Pacers made a lot of threes. They were 12 for 26, but they weren't generating a ton of them. Right. So it was actually very hard for really either team to go on any significant runs. It only happened once in the game, which we'll get to in a second. But most of the time, in fact, almost the whole game, the lead was somewhere between 6 for either team. And that is a fun game and entertaining. But that meant that eventually one team just needed one run to get it done. And that happened, right? So the Pacers were actually hanging in tough, right? They were winning a lot of the first half. Şengün exits in the first quarter, and the Pacers bench comes in and looks awesome. And it's 40-38 Pacers. But they're 5 for 9 from deep, and I thought, man, if they stop making threes, they're in trouble. And guess what happens right before halftime? The worst stretch of the game for the Pacers. 3 minutes to go until halftime. The Pacers are winning. It looks like they're going to be entering the half on a high. They're playing pretty well, at least figuring out how they can break through what the Rockets want to do. And at that 3-minute mark, Aaron Nesmith has just finished an and one floater. It's 52-46 Pacers. They're up 6 with 3 minutes to go in the first half, and they were down 7 at halftime. 17-4 Rockets run to close the half. That was the only just truly awful run for the Pacers this entire game. And that stretch It was the Pacers offense that died. They got a basket from Siakam and 2 free throws from Mathurin, and that's it. And they did not stop the Rockets once. That obviously sounds worse for their defense, but the way the Rockets play this possession battle, it's such a two-way street. If you score, it makes it harder for them. For example, Jabari Smith hits a 3 in that sequence. It came after 2 offensive rebounds for the Rockets. Jayshawn Tate dunk came after a free throw immediately. An Amen Thompson putback dunk came after 2 Rockets offensive rebounds, right? It's not even like the Pacers defense was so terrible, but their rebounding was, and that was a huge story of the game. And that was the only time the Rockets went up 12 after that, early in the third quarter. That was the only time a team was up double digits. Outside of that, the Pacers were doing pretty well to adjust to what was happening. And then the second half, I thought they did a better job figuring out this Rocket style and what they can do about it. Here come all the Rockets. This rebound gap is forming. They know that's okay. And then the fourth quarter shifted where the problems for the Pacers were a little different. The rebounding was still an issue, but the problems late for the Pacers were Alperen Şengün and fouling. And 2 of those, that's kind of the same. They fouled Şengün specifically quite a bit down the stretch. And I want to talk about Şengün in a second. The fouls were, to me, the Pacers just letting the Rockets get too close to the basket and that being their only option. But the real issue here is this is the Rockets' style forcing the Pacers out of character. So the Pacers have been going small a lot, and they couldn't in this game. Alperen Şengün, if you go small against him, you're toast. As he showed, he had 39 points. And so the Pacers went big. They start Jay Huff. Jay Huff is a good defender at some things around the basket. Defending big bruising post players is not one of them. He really struggled in this game. We'll talk about some notes for him later, but not a good matchup for him. And Isaiah Jackson played very well. He's not traditionally been very good in this kind of matchup, but he was in this game. And Micah Potter can kind of combine all the best stuff. He was okay in his 11.5 minutes. He was at least very efficient. So they just didn't have a good matchup for Şengün at all in this game. Ironically, they could have really used Tony Bradley. They don't have him. So the option you'd think of is, well, just double team him. But then if you're playing a Houston team that crashes the way they do and takes the shots that they do, the rebounding battle would have been even more dramatic. Houston would have gotten a bajillion offensive rebounds, but if you single cover Şengün or Thompson or whatever, they're harder to stop. They're just going to barrel into the paint and foul. You could have said, okay, maybe they should have doubled more, but they're giving up something. And all of those somethings are given up because the Pacers did not have a good matchup for A, the Rockets' best player in this game, and B, the style Houston wanted to play, which is try their hardest to get as close to the basket as possible. If they miss, crash as hard as they can. And I was kind of curious about this postgame. If you watch the postgame interviews, you'll hear me ask quite a few people this. When it comes to the Rockets, is it that the way they play that lets them be so good on the glass, or is it who they have on the team? And the answer is a mixture of both. They would not play the way they do without the roster they have, but they are so many players capable of changing a possession with an offensive rebound. Şengün had 7, but Amen Thompson had 4. Clint Capella had 4. Jayshawn Tate had a huge one. Jabari Smith had a couple. Their team is good at it, and it makes it it was very hard for the Pacers to defend them. And at one point in the game, the Pacers were down 4, and I thought if they go cold with the way this rebound gap is forming, they're screwed. And they never really went cold, but they had just a few stretches at the end of the first half, a few times in the fourth after they took a lead, where they could not quite score enough to offset the fact that they were letting the Rockets get to the rim too much and fouling too often. I mean, Jarris Walker had a foul. He got screened and tried to get out of it where he fouled somebody facing backwards. Like just kind of a weird, trying to be physical kind of play. That was not great. There was one foul I hated on Isaiah Jackson against Şengün. I did not think was a foul, but the rest of them I thought mostly were. And they smack Amen Thompson on the very next drive, right? It was all a requirement because they were getting beat to the rim so much. And then the Pacers on the other end, some tough layup attempts against the Rockets' rim defense. And all that led to a loss. The Rockets played the way they wanted, and their matchups and style are so challenging for what the Pacers roster is. They showed that the first time when these teams played in Houston, and Kevin Durant played and Şengün didn't, and the Rockets still dominated the boards that night. Steven Adams played some of that game. They dominated the boards that night. The Pacers had no chance. And so that offensive rebound thing, everybody knows this, but I say this every time it happens, the possession battle is massive. Both teams took 87 shots in this game. The Pacers made more. They made 3 more shots. The Pacers had 5 fewer turnovers. The Pacers shot 3% better from the field and 15% better from deep. And yet, the Rockets had 12 more offensive rebounds. So that's about 8 more possessions if you offset turnovers. And 8 possessions, if you get fouled on a 2-point shot every time, gets you 16 free throws. And that's how many more the Rockets took. They took 37. The Pacers took 21. And the Rockets made 15 more free throws. That is how you overcome not being as good on your first shot. And the Rockets style just strangled the Pacers all night. So, of course, you could say rebound better. Obviously, every player would like to rebound better, but there was a lot of stylistic challenges that really hurt the Pacers, and they got in their own way a little at the end. They're down 3. Amen Thompson has the ball. They opt not to foul him. That was weird. He's not a good free throw shooter. Then they foul Şengün, who actually misses both, a miracle, and then Amen Thompson gets the rebound and goes 1 of 2 from the line. The game is over. So, tough one for the Pacers, who largely did some good stuff. Their offense was somewhat successful. This was an awesome bench game. Welcome back, Isaiah Jackson, Ben Mathurin. He keeps going. And they still lose because of the way the Rockets play. So much more to get to. Jay Huff's poor night, Isaiah Jackson's great night, the bench in general, Johnny Furphy. I have a lot I want to talk about. It's still coming from Pacers Rockets here on Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, got to talk to you guys about FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60. FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you are back in the favorite riding with the underdog or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn to plays, stats turn to storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from the kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 on FanDuel. You'll get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Let's call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Let me also talk to you guys about Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding somebody who will take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move, because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates. They'll boost your job listing to people who fit your specific criteria: skills, certifications, location. You don't just want someone who can help. You want somebody with real experiences. They can jump right in. That's what you like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves you time. You're spending less energy, no mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, it's seen by candidates who are actually a fit. The stat that says it all: in the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed's data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners to this podcast will get $75 in sponsored job credit to help you get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Hop on over to Locked On Rockets for your second listen. Jackson Gatlin will have everything from the other side. Alperen Şengün post not making All-Star, going crazy. Him and I talked and linked up for a segment on Locked On Rockets this week. Love Jackson. You'll enjoy there. And hey, the NBA trade deadline's almost here, 2 days away. Free month of the new Everyday Club here at Locked On to help you get ready. If you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, join ours. The Everyday Club gets you access to a group chat and Discord just for Pacers fans, plus Nationals chats where you can see and hang out with fans from across the league. You also get ad-free versions of this podcast, and if you sign up by the trade deadline on the 5th, you can use the code DEADLINE to get your first month for free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Okay, let's keep going on Pacers Rockets. I just said a lot of things. One of the big positive takeaways had the Pacers won this game to me would certainly have been that the bench was awesome. And we'll talk a lot about individual bench players throughout the game, but this was probably the best on both ends of the bench has played. I mean, I don't want to say all season without looking at every single game, but in a long, long time. I mean, they went for once, maybe like 1 or 2 plays, but they had a full bench group of 5, I believe. Oh, it has to be because only 10 guys played in the game. They had all 5 at the same time of McConnell, Shepard, Walker, Mathurin, and Jackson on the floor. It was only like 1 possession, and J-Huff came right back in, but I thought, whoa, they never do that. Usually Neesmith's out there, Siakam's out there, or whatever, and it was kind of working. They were saving the game early, and this was a very unique matchup for the Pacers for all the reasons I just laid out in the first segment. But if you heard what I said about the way the Rockets like to swarm to get below the foul line, creating rim pressure, even if you can't get all the way to the basket because of that attention, still causes that kind of defense to rotate and move and be involved in a lot of ways. And so Siakam and Mathurin became very important in that way. They can actually get into the teeth and break stuff down. So does TJ McConnell. And so too does Aaron Neesmith, who is obviously like, he was just slumping kind of recently, but he's totally broken out of it. And people are not giving enough credit to how much and how aggressive his drives have been recently. He's just moving. He was actually pretty effective in that way tonight as well. But off the bench, McConnell and Mathurin together, both in tandem, could get in the paint in a way that didn't feel like the Pacers starters really could to open the game. And they continued that all night. McConnell wasn't finishing. He was 2 for 7. I think he got blocked twice, but they won his minutes by 5. He was effective on defense and pesky as well. And Mathurin was just awesome. I mean, we'll talk individually about him later. He was 1 free throw away from half of the Pacers' free throws in this game. 8 for 13 on twos, got wherever he wanted, and did a lot of other awesome things in this game. So the way the Rockets want to play actually suited the Pacers bench pretty well, and a bunch of mixed in good plays from Jarris again, who's just playing great. Ben Shepherd was tidy enough in his minutes. Isaiah Jackson had his best game in a while. Micah Potter chipped in when they needed him to because there was foul trouble for all the Pacers bigs. So that's just the offensive end. And that group, when now the way they started big, so Jarris is back with that group, has enough size to be good on defense, especially if everybody's dialed in. And they certainly were in this game. So just big picture without focusing on one individual. I mean, this was a great just general bench game for the Pacers. They were rocking it in the second half. They were the first group that came in and actually fixed the issue of getting the twos in the basket. A full group of 5 actually made sense. And you know what was really funny? Not to dunk on any couple people. I got a comment in this game from like 1 or 2 people that were laughing early because Siakam did not come back. So he usually checks out, and he's a 3-stint player. He checks out halfway through the first quarter, a little before that, and then he'll come in like 3 minutes later before the quarter ends. And he didn't. He didn't return to the first quarter because the bench was playing so well they did not need to turn to him. And I got a couple people that posted at me, and they were like, great job by the Pacers. Siakam got his all-star. Now they're shutting him down. And then he played 33 minutes, and it just happened to be that the bench was playing well. They didn't need him. That's still below his season average. I'm not saying that's good. He probably should, not even probably, he should still be playing less than that. But I think people conflated the bench playing very well and his minutes being down. It was just down for 1 quarter. But that's how good the bench was. They kept Siakam out of the game, and no one even noticed. Very few people actually noticed. And those who did notice thought it was for the wrong reason. It was actually just because that unit was so good in this game, which was just awesome. So the player that I would like, there's 2 players I would like to focus on from the second unit who I have my most notes on from this entire game. And that is Isaiah Jackson and Ben Mathurin, who both were awesome for different reasons. Second straight game to me, I'll start with Mathurin, where not only was he good at the Mathurin stuff, and this was not the case in the last one, right? They just played the Hawks, and he got to the line a bunch. He took 8 free throws, but he was 3 for 6 from the field, right? He wasn't like so hunting for a shot or anything like that. But if you listen to the post-game podcast I did after that game, I talked about all the little things he did that were huge. He was great on the glass. He's been proving to be good at that. Of late, he had 4 assists. Some of them were very tidy. He had a few too many turnovers, but was largely pretty good in that game. Plus 16, played 32 minutes, closed the game. He was really good. And again, against the Rockets, this time the situation suited him very well. He was second on the team in shot attempts with 15. I already talked about the free throws. That's the stuff that we've all seen Mathurin be good at all the time. But the second straight game where pretty good on the glass with 4 of them, 0 turnovers, 5 assists. I mean, he snapped one of these passes. I'm trying to find it in my notes where he drove in from the left side, got to the paint. A defender stepped up at him. Sometimes Ben Mathurin tries to go through that guy or like kind of a half step around him. He just turns calmly, one hand dart across the paint pass to Jarris Walker on the right wing, and Jarris Walker drilled the 3. Like, it was awesome. His first stint, he already had 3 assists. He looked great in this game. A gorgeous lefty layup through traffic. Just really tidy, clean performance. A huge offensive rebound late in a 5-point game. 2 really good, complete Bennedict Mathurin games in a row here. Perhaps the first 2 games where he had 1 great half and 1 awful half in Atlanta, and then like an game against the Bulls, were more so about his just return from health and him actually playing in real games, because he looked quite good in these last 2 and deserved to be their second option for much of this game and on the floor for a lot of this game. Right, he's still coming off the bench, but played 34 minutes, led the Pacers in minutes in this game. Deservedly, he played well enough to get them. And then Isaiah Jackson, his best game in ages. I jokingly, not even jokingly, I said during the game, I wonder if this is his best game of the season, completely forgetting that he just pulverized the Bucks early in the season. I somehow forgot that happened, but he still played very well in this game. And the reason it stood out so much and felt like a comment that I should say maybe it's his best game of the season is because compared to his recent games, he was really sensational. I mean, since returning from injury, he plays in his hometown of Detroit, and they played awful. So he got to play a lot and had, 10 points and 5 boards, but he's only scored. I don't know if people realize this. So he had that 10-point game in Detroit. He's appeared in every game since then, and he's only scored in 1 game. He had 4 points against the Hawks. He had 0 against Philly, Boston, OKC, Chicago, and Atlanta, right? He has been very quiet. And in this game, he was great. And you're going to be, if you didn't watch the game and you're listening to this, or you pull up the box score, and you're going to see Isaiah Jackson had 6 points and go, huh? But read the whole thing. 6 points, 6 boards. That's good. 4 assists for Isaiah Jackson, 4 steals, 2 blocks. He was everywhere in this game, ripping the ball from Clint Capella, hitting the glass hard, a give and go with Ben Shepherd. That was a real possession that happened, and it worked. He scored, right? He had a bad final 2 minutes of the first half, and that's when the Pacers kind of fell apart. Other than that, that was maybe his best game. Not his best game of the season. One of his best games of the season. Certainly his best game in a long time. His most productive game since returning from injury. And I don't know where game score is going to land this. You know, he's had lots of games scoring more points than this or having more rebounds. He's had a couple double-doubles this season, obviously. But this feels like one of his best 5-ish to 10 best games of the season. And amazingly, you wouldn't think the 6'9" guy who's not particularly bulky, although he's, kind of strong, would not be their best option against Şengün, but he was. He was a deterrent. He was pesky. Really, really great Isaiah Jackson game. They have not seen that version of him in a while, and I would personally like to see more of it. And very funny that the 2 bench guys I focused on are, to me, the 2 guys that will be of at least more discussion this week with the trade deadline approaching. Okay, a couple more guys to talk about, J-Huff. Johnny Furphy, interesting note about him that I want to get to. So much more still to come here on Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, I got to talk to you about TurboTax. Tax season does not have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything, W-2s or self-employed forms, and work with you to get every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate. Get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local and book your appointment today. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day your second listen. Locked On Cavs or Locked On Clippers. What is happening? Possibly James Harden for Darius Garland. I don't get it at all for the Cavs. Super crazy. It would be hilarious if Giannis and Garland got traded. Apparently losing to the Pacers in the playoffs means you trade for Cat, or you trade away Giannis, or you trade away Garland. Okay. I apologize if I have sounded floaty. It's very late. My stomach has been hurting since the game started. I've spent many trips to the many porcelain collections for men in Gamebridge Fieldhouse during the game. So I had to rewatch a lot of it when I got home to make sure I had everything all together. And one of my notes from early in the game was something that I kind of wanted to focus in on when I got back and watched the stretches that I missed but only heard on the radio in the arena. So Johnny Furphy, no doubt from anyone that he's playing well. He's been promising. He's deserved to be a starter all these games. He takes on tough matchups. His defense is good. You all get the pitch of why he's playing. Good rebounder, first position, things of that nature. In fact, in this game, he played less than 14 minutes and had 4 rebounds, and they got smoked on the glass. It actually makes me wonder, should he have played a little bit more? And yet, here's why I think he didn't play a little bit more, and that's because Reed Shepherd is actually going to be a guy we focus on here. He was trying a lot of things because maybe this is why, maybe not. He had a lot of people in the building to cheer for him from UK, big cheers when he played. And Reed Shepherd's a good player. He's a good offensive initiator, right? He was not playing particularly well in this game, but they trust him with the ball, things of that nature. Reed Shepherd is not at all a good defender. He's a terrible defender. But in this game, the Rockets very easily could play him and play him a pretty good amount. He played 25 minutes and they won those minutes by 2 because they could just plant him on Johnny Furphy. Johnny Furphy has shown every game a couple, like 1 or 2. Okay, that was a nice drive. Okay, that was a comfortable in rhythm 3, things of that nature. It's not like he's a 0 on offense, but he is by far the least threatening option of the starters, right? And part of the pitch of why he works so well with that group is that he is a very clear 5th option and he's fine with it. And he figures out how to fill in that role. And that's fine. I'm not saying that this is a huge negative, but his current level of unthreateningness to score, that's not a good term, is kind of like to the point of detriment that teams can do this. Reed Shepherd's terrible defense is less critically bad when they can just throw him on Johnny Furphy, and it's fine. Johnny Furphy was 1-for-1 in this game. His shot got goaltended. The reason that's relevant is because I cannot remember the name. I'm so sorry, person, if you're listening. Somebody on Blue Sky was communicating with me, and they're like, who's the last player that started 3 games in a row and did not make a shot in any of those 3 games? And that was what Furphy's approaching. He did not hit a shot in either of the last 2 games. And in this game, his one make didn't go through the net. The answer, by the way, is Kem Birch, a center for the Raptors in 2021-22. 3 straight games in late February where he started all 3 and did not hit a shot. 2021-22, that's 4 seasons ago, was the last time that Furphy was approaching that level, right? So don't get me wrong. Again, I need to reiterate, he is playing well. He has reached a level that he is deserving of the minutes he's getting. He very clearly fits with the starting 5. You wonder how the dynamic changes when it's a bigger group versus a smaller group, certainly. But that really caught my eye, the way the Rockets were able to do that and not get punished for it, right? So that is just noteworthy and something to keep an eye on for the Pacers as they strategize lineups. Like, it would not shock me with the way Mathurin's playing if they eventually, if he's on the team post-deadline, go back to Mathurin starting instead of Furphy just for that kind of reason. Anyway, that caught my eye in a way that needed to be discussed because it is time for the next phase of the Furphy conversation instead of just every game being like, ooh, how interesting. Okay, a couple more guys to get to. 3 really quick notes, and then I want to talk about Jay Huff to close this one out. Jarris Walker, he had a play in this game where he caught it in kind of semi-transition on the left wing facing the basket, and he was cutting, and he didn't even stop on the catch. He just kept going, boom, blasting full speed to the rim. I don't know how often this has happened in his career or even this season as he's shot better from 3. And by the way, 2 for 4 again. His shot is very trustworthy. He took more 2s than 3s in this game. 5 2s, 4 3s for Jarris Walker in this game on his way to 12 points and 4 boards. He was quite good. That cut was perfect, using his size and speed to be an advantage and to gain one and to finish a play that against the Rockets is hard to get to the cup. Really good play. He just looked awesome. Once again, speaking of good toward the rim stuff, I kind of mentioned this already. Aaron Nesmith putting together a nice stretch of finishing plays. One, just in general, his shot is largely air quotes back, but I mentioned this earlier, like he had that strong elbow defender out of the way drive. He's finishing some floaters of late. He has really cleaned up after his slump and has looked quite good, I would say, these last couple games. He had a gorgeous toward the rim stuff in this game, right? And that is noteworthy because that is clearly, and as has been discussed many times leading into the season or talking about the development of the Pacers, the next step for him. He can definitely shoot, no doubt, especially when Haliburton is playing, although his 3-point percentage for this season, which everybody's calling a terrible shooting season, is up to 38% after a terrible start. And that was before this game where he went 3 for 7, so it's even higher now. But the last couple games, 7 for 14, taking 9 2s in OKC, 6 for 11, taking 5 2s against the Hawks, 5 for 9, taking 4 2s against the Bulls, 8 for 10, taking 6 2s against the Hawks. And then tonight, 6 for 13, taking 6 2s against the Rockets. So more toward the rim pop is there from Aaron Nesmith. He's doing well, taking advantage of gaps created by the Pacers offensive flow. And that's a big development for him. I thought he did well there. The best thing the Pacers did on defense was their wall up against Amen Thompson to keep him out of the paint for 3 quarters. Then the Rockets figured out how that could work. I thought that was a fun little wrinkle. It was like almost Giannis-like the way that they would send kind of 2 to his side of the ball when he was trying to move in. Last guy to talk about, I should have reordered this so I'm not ending on such a down note. JF, oof. They had to go big in this game. They can't start small. Şengün is starting. Şengün is very good. Specifically, the things Jay Huff struggles with on defense, Şengün is good at those things. Oh, not a lot from Jay Huff in this game. He got 1 foul so early, and Carlisle was like, nope, this is not the right matchup. This is not going to work. Pulled him out quickly. He got beat up the floor by Clint Capella during his second stint really bad. His second foul, out he goes for Isaiah Jackson again. His third foul comes before halftime. Just a really rough first half. He could have been helpful in this game for what I described earlier. If the 2s are hard to get, 3s and shooters are important, but he was 2 for 6 from deep, 3 rebounds, 2 blocks, 5 fouls, not great, minus 10. A team low, not a good game for him, not a good matchup for him. It's just not a good matchup for him. There's a reason both other centers, Potter was 17 seconds shy. Both other centers played as much or more than him in this game. This is not a shocking detriment to Jay Huff. This has been a known issue for him, but it certainly stood out in this game. And this exposed to the type of center that this current by committee group for the Pacers really struggles with. And that is Pacers Rockets. Tomorrow, it's Pacers Jazz. We'll have, of course, a podcast right after that game. Should be a fun, tank-tastic one. We'll see, actually. The Jazz certainly have been doing a little more, and by a little more, I mean way more resting than the Pacers. Who knows if the Pacers will do any resting? They have been doing some on back-to-backs recently, so we will see. And I will be there, of course. So a podcast coming after that game. Thank you all so much for listening today. You can find me on social media at Tony R. Reese and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. And thanks for tuning in to Locked On Pacers today. Subscribe and follow so you get the latest episodes. And of course, if you miss an episode, the Everyday Club is built for you. Locked On Pacers ad-free, members-only Discord access, and more. Head to the link in the description. And for those of you on video, the 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel is coming. On audio, make your second listen Locked On NBA Game Night. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you very soon.